All right. I'm Chris. My official name is Christopher Heinbockel, Henry Heinbockel. I'm a Long Islander. Born and brought up on Long Island, outside of New York, just a shade outside where I was born, outside of New York City. Went to the public schools in Nassau County, Mineola High School, and along came, well, I started going to night school at college. My parents couldn't afford to send me, so I started at night school, Hofstra College. And the war came along. And of course, one thing that sticks in your memory, where were you when the war started? Well, you heard about it. And there's a place called Belmont Lake State Park. Now, this is December 7th. We must have had a cold winter. I was ice skating on the lake, and they called us over to the fire where they had a fire going, and they had a radio going that the thing started. You couldn't make up your mind, but anyway, some of my friends got drafted. Some of my friends, like myself, I enlisted. They wouldn't take me right away. I had to wait. Anyway, about April or May or somewhere around there, I went into the Army. I wanted to go into the Air Force, but my mother wanted me on the ground. She had to give permission. I was 20. So I have a different number. If you enlist, you have a different number than a draftee. And so I went in there, and they shipped me over to Fort Dix, New Jersey. And at Fort Dix, New Jersey, they shipped this to, well, they called out your name and shipped it down to Fort Meade, Maryland. And the first thing I know, I'm in the 76th Infantry Division, M Company, which is a heavy weapons company, mortars and that sort of stuff. And there I got my basic, but I had good luck. I took the radio test, and they put me in the 76 Signal Company. So I became a radio operator. Finished my basic there. Fort Meade is between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. And I went down to, I was shipped down to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, the 9th Infantry Division. And we knew we were going to go overseas. And I was put in something called the RI platoon, which is radio intelligence. And we were shipped over sometime, I think it was just before Thanksgiving. And went on the ship. Hit some kind of storm, 40-foot waves. You couldn't see the ships and the rest of the convoy. And we landed at Casablanca. And didn't stay long at Casablanca. We went up the coast to a little town named Port Leoti. And I got to see some things up there. The fighting was over when we landed, except for sniper fire. And nobody in our company got hurt, so and then all of a sudden we were on a train. They call them 40 and 8s. These cars, which are smaller than our cars, are train cars, and not seats. These are animal cars. 40 men or 8 horses. It's the French thing. And all of those were French nations at that time, colonies, like French Morocco and Algeria and so forth. Went to Algeria to a place called Tlemcen, Tclemsen, and we went there. Boy, it was cold at night. Ooh. See, I remember that. And we weren't allowed in the Foreign Legion barracks yet. It's the French. You're not French, are you? And we slept on the ground, and there was frozen ground, and oh boy. And this is the desert. During the day, it got over 100. We had heard there was a battle going on between Rommel and us, and we went to that battle, the second battle of Kasserine Pass. As far as my action goes, it seems that the German planes were always bombing or strafing us. We set up our equipment and so forth, and maybe that's the reason, or maybe because there was artillery near us, they were bombing them, and they're getting too close to us. And so we finished up in Africa, and we rested a while. We went over to, took a ship over to Sicily. Now the Sicilian campaign had started already when we got there. But here we're sitting in the harbor early in the morning, and the Germans come over and they start bombing the ships that are in the harbor. And that was no fun. And we finally we went out and did our thing. I had at that time, I wish I hadn't, but I asked the guy who was the official driver of this half-track. You wouldn't know what that is, but a half-track is like, it's got wheels in the front and it's got a track in the back. And we went over under a dried-up riverbed. He just said dried-up riverbed. No, it's got water running through it, but not much, because it wasn't a rainy season. So a rock got caught in my tread in the track, and it pushed the track off the thing, and there we are sitting in the middle of the thing, and the Germans are bombing the bridge up above, and of course, they're not perfect. And a bulldozer came and pulled us out of there so that we could put the track back on the thing. Nothing much else. Fighting was soon over, and some of the pleasures we got is, for instance, a bunch of us found Mount Etna. And at the foot of Mount Etna, there were pools of lava, so that rain caught in them, and we went swimming. My mother was shocked when she saw the picture. She says, "You got no clothes on." What am I going to worry about? I mean, after all, when you went to the bathroom, for God's sakes, you had a box that everybody sat on. We didn't bother putting a thing around us, and the women would come up to us, "Hey, Joe, you want clothes washed?" So, then we hit the rainy season, but in a short time we got on our ship, and we were, well, it was speculation. They don't tell you anything, so it's just as well. And the speculation of where we're going. Well, a lot of guys thought they were going back to the States. No way. And we ended up in England. We landed in Liverpool, England. And we went down to my company and it was a battalion of us, which means my company and a few other companies, the engineer company maybe, and those people. We all went down to Winchester, England. Got to know Winchester very well. Winchester is known for its cathedral, built in 1034. I was over there in the 90s with my wife, and we went down there. And do you know the things that I'd been there. These gals weren't even born yet. And they're telling me, oh no, that didn't happen. Well, it did.
One of the reasons maybe that we need to do something like this.
Huh?
One of the reasons we need to document what.
Yeah. So they didn't do this, you know. I had there was a man there. We went up in the tower when he was there during the war, and he took us up into the tower. It's a great big square tower. I can't think of the guy who blew out the window in the thing, but never mind. And this woman, just a few years ago, oh no, you're not allowed up in the tower. I says, but this guy took us. Oh, he was crazy. So anyway, we had, oh yeah, let's see, Eisenhower came to talk to us about the beginning of the invasion. Churchill came to talk to us in the beginning of the invasion. Bradley came to talk to us. They'd stand on their Jeep or something like that, you know. And then we had Montgomery, British general. And we had him, he was talking to us because we were supposed to we did go to Normandy. So that was it. So I got broken out of the 9th Signal Company, and they made a company, didn't call them RI, they call them Signal Service Company. They're trying to fool the Germans that it isn't a radio intelligence company listening to them, okay? Of course they knew. We were terrible in Africa. We couldn't decode their stuff. We couldn't do anything. So this new company had a British major who outranked our company commander, and he was in charge of decoding with his people, all Britons, because America have big mouths. They talk too damn much, or words to that effect.
Can I take it back just a little bit? You said these generals came and talked to you.
Yeah.
What was your response? What did you think of them? How did you feel about that?
Oh, we felt pretty good to see these guys. Yeah. Eisenhower particularly. No, I'm a friend of Eisenhower.
What impressed you the most about them, about him?
Eisenhower was a very down-to-earth man, very much so. Montgomery, the opposite, he was way up in the middle of the air. Bradley was down-to-earth. He was the common soldier's general, and he was a very fine man. Montgomery, history, if they ever release it, he did not do what he should have done.
What was Churchill like?
Churchill, formal, in a sense, yeah. I also saw today's Queen Elizabeth, huh? She was with her parents. She was driving a medical, a meat wagon, we call it. You know, The medical, the ambulance, and she was an ambulance driver, and she was in the ATS, Army Territorial Service. That's what the British call their women in thing. In fact, I knew a girl over there who was a sergeant in the ACAC artillery, anti-aircraft guns, and I thought it was very funny. They were set up in a cemetery in Winchester. And she's given the orders because the Germans are coming over with their bombers to bomb, as it turned out, London and that sort of thing. Well, anyhow, these details, I don't know, but we got on the ship, well, we made our own company. And we were in limbo. Nobody owned us. But naturally, I got chosen among about a dozen other guys to be on the advance party to go into Normandy, not before D-Day, the advance party, because the rest of our guys came at about D+7 or something like that. In fact, a great deal of the 9th Division came D+7. The 9th Division, 39th Infantry was on, what do you call it last night? History Channel. And anyway, we got on the ship, and again, the rumors whether you're going to really go for Normandy or you're not going to do anything. We didn't know we were going to land it, kept it quiet. And but one of the strange things if you go to a British bar or any bar, I suppose, it seems that and there's a lot of bar maidens, okay, and those gals seem to know more about what's going to go on to you than they're telling you. Oh, this is it. Yeah, it was. We were off Normandy. And we didn't land right away. But about afternoon, they started unloading our trucks and so forth, and I had a truck assigned to me this time. They were unloading the trucks in a German shore battery, and of course here I am with two battle stars already, huh? So I know what's going on. And we had a lot of green guys. And the first shell at us came short of the thing. And oh look, shell landed in the water, some of them saying. I saw that, boy, did I get out of there. The second shell went over the boat, over the ship we're on. So we're bracketed. So all he does is correct it, all right? He corrects his gun, and boom, the next 3 or 4 of them landed right on the ship. One of the guys comes out of his truck, and he's immediately killed. He didn't have a chance. I heard him say, "What's happening?" And that was the end of it. Anyway, we finally unloaded. What they did is called in for our artillery on the ships, and they shut up that place. So we weren't so, we're doing all right. We were landing at Utah Beach, and Utah Beach is not the famous one, but just as well.
When the tragedy hits, this was your third battle. This is your third big one. And you said some of the guys are green. They're so new.
They came from the States. They came from. We had guys who came from Iceland. They thought they were going home too. Fat chance. See, it isn't the same as in the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War, you did your year, and they sent you back. We're there for the duration.
How did you, with your experience, help the guys who are new?
What I saw of a few of the new guys, or whoever they were, is come with me, you know. So I went on the far side of the ship from the shore. And the guys one of my friends who had been with me for quite a while, he was there, and he stayed to the near side. I says, Ed, why'd you do that for? He says, well, I wanted to see what was happening. I says, you're crazy. He got a little bit in the leg. He was very lucky. So, anyway, what do you do with them? You don't do much. It's almost, you take care of yourself first. As far as heroes go, well, I could tell you just the opposite of heroes, but I'm not going to do that. We've had some terrible experiences where all the people that you depend on, officers particularly, they disappear when the fighting gets bad. So you're left with one guy. Anyway, we unloaded. By the time we went to go ashore, it was already getting evening. Now you understand one thing. They're higher in latitude than we are here. So 11 o'clock at night, it's still some daylight. Okay? And 3 in the morning it starts. And this was June, so it's right smack in the middle. We were strafed going in by German planes. They're always working at night. After all, American planes didn't fly at night. And they strafed us a couple of times. Nobody got hit. We were on an LCT, landing craft tank. And there were 2 trucks behind me, 2 Jeeps in front of me. We lost the 2 Jeeps because the guy in charge of the LCT dropped the ramp too soon. And they went over the ramp, and the first thing you know, the water is up to their neck, see? So they lost all their equipment in that Jeep. I didn't lose it. I lost the thing conked out after they pulled out again and went back in. And this time I had the ramp was down on the sand, so I went out. But then the engine died. So a guy, and I have a picture of this someplace, and the bulldozer on shore, he went up and down the shore to see what he could do to help. These are the engineers. There's some guys, I mean, they're really great guys. And the engineers, he came with his bulldozer, threw him in the thing, and I put it on the hook on my bumper, and he yanked me out. Yanked me so bad that he bent the bumper. Now these are bumpers, these are made of real steel. Not your cars, you know. We went in, we got bombed almost every night while we were in there. Bombs sometimes so close, one knocked me right out of my hole. Yeah. And it was always fun to listen to.
What did it sound like? What did this whole thing sound like? Some of the men have talked about that. Can you still hear that sound? What did it sound like?
Well, I heard the guns going, sure. I don't know what kind of sound they're talking about.
Some talked about it being so noisy.
See, there was, yeah, well, it is noisy, but it was noisy when the artillery, our artillery and their artillery was going strong. It's very noisy. But then when we were landing, there was nobody there to greet us. Wherever the Germans were, I don't know. But they couldn't have been far off because we dug in at the beach, right near one of the cliffs or dunes. And so we didn't go in at night. We went in the next day and dug in some other place.
How did you cope with all this? Because obviously the site, when you were getting bombed and that type of thing, it's pretty dramatic. How did you cope with this?
I don't remember getting. I was worried. I was did a lot of heavy praying when they got too close. Things like that. Yeah. I got attached back to the 9th Division, and they took Cherbourg. Cherbourg is a harbor, and they took Cherbourg. And oh boy, I wasn't feeling well at all. So for the 3rd time, I had malaria. I got malaria in Africa, but they were treating me with Atibrin. I was doing fine. And Sicily, the same thing. But see, France, there's no malaria, so why bother? So I got a real case of it. And I was in the hospital for, I guess, the hospital, it's a field hospital, tents. And I guess for 3 or 4, 5 days maybe I was in a hospital. Then they send you to the replacement depot. But my first sergeant, we were very good friends. He came from Pennsylvania. Andy Marsinko. Andy was, we didn't call him Andy, he was Snuffy. Snuffy Marsinko. I heard he got killed in what do you call it? Korea. He stayed in the service. Anyway, we had the usual things, the same, being bombed and so forth, but then when I got back with the group, we started moving thing. There was the Felice Gap, and there was other things like this. And we went south of Paris. I never saw Paris while I was there. Never. Even when I went back with the truck to pick up food and to pick up ammunition, made 2 trips with a 2.5-ton truck, and they saw that we didn't go one way or the other. There was a lot of black market going on. Our own guys were selling to the French. Lovely. The major in charge of that big sale got, I hope he's still in jail, if he's alive. We went into Germany. We were, the First Army was the, and that's that big A you see, that's the First Army. And we went into Germany, first American troops in Germany. And we came to a town, I think it was, all right, I'm a little not so sure myself. We came to a place, let's say, Canilly, Munster is the name of it. It's hardly a town. It exists of a church like, if you ever see some of the towns, maybe up here too, huh? Yeah, see down south there was a town near us. That the church, general store, and 2 or 3 houses, that was the town. And this sort of thing. So we were there, and somebody had the bright idea to put our trucks in deep in dirt so that they could be protected, okay? Yeah? What they did is shove the dirt out from the woods we were in. And the result is, I guess nobody thought of it. I didn't. I don't remember thinking about that. But we were there for a couple of weeks, and the Germans were coming over, dropping their flares and taking pictures and everything else, and I guess their interpreters saw this doggone dirt out there. Oh, they got gun emplacements or something, huh? Okay. I don't know if they saw our antennas, radio antennas. They were big, tall things, about as high as the ceiling, higher than the ceiling, with antenna wires coming down. So what happened is that all of a sudden we're getting shelled. And we go to see what's happening, and 2 German tanks are coming towards us with about a company of German soldiers. And boy, we better get out of here. We found one officer, and he was able to call up and say, ask for artillery and also orders, and said, you guys better get out of there. Now, our setup itself, we had 2 tanks assigned to us. I don't know where they went, but if you're looking at 2 German Panther tanks, I don't think you want to bother with them. It's almost as bad as a Tiger. So we had to go out into the field under fire and take down this stupid antenna. And they pulled us back to, well, we spent the night in a railroad station. There were worse things. But that was a nasty thing. And then we ended up in this little town called Eupen, EUP something. Anyway, German town. And on December 16th, which happened to be my birthday, for the first time I saw German jets. They had them. And 1 rocket plane. That's how they opened the doggone Battle of the Bulge at us. So we were there. We had to move because the Germans were coming right near us. And yeah, we moved. We went back into Belgium. And briefly, we went to while it was snowing, oh boy, something like the snow we had last winter. It was deep. You dug a hole in the snow. It wasn't bad then, you know. You were in the snow. You didn't even get down to the dirt. And this was your foxhole. Anyway, we got back far enough that we went to this, we went into the field and they saw us there. There's this older couple, older than us after all. I'm only 22 at that time. And they invited us into the house. And this is just the day before New Year's. And they invited us into the house, and we slept between sheets, of all things. Hadn't had that experience even in barracks in Britain. And then she made, the lady there, they were raising what they call Belgian hares. These are big rabbits. They get this big, and the cage is about 1 inch or 2 on each side of them. They had a whole row of these, and this is their food. Well, she made rabbit stew, and the rabbit stew was delicious, absolutely. I hadn't had it since for many, way back, when you could get rabbit. And you didn't get it very often since my mother didn't like it, so what do you do? And it was okay. When shortly after New Year's, it was all fog out. Our planes couldn't fly. You see? They can't see the ground. And so they could not blow up the German tanks if they saw them and stuff like that. Well, it cleared up one day, a couple of days after New Year's. It cleared up, and all you heard was planes up there, and they were Oz. And they were shooting up the doggone works. That when we had to go to another spot, all we saw was dead Germans and dead tanks and dead trucks and everything else on each side of the road. That the engineers who go before us move everything out of the way. Yeah, the next only important thing, we went out there. We got nothing for going out there under fire or anything else. We never got a little decoration or anything. Listen, see on the Gulf War, these guys are getting decorations for what?
Such a different type of war.
They got better guns than what we had. Although the M1 is a good gun. Anyway, we went through into Germany more. Another thing is that we came to this town called Nordhausen. Now, Nordhausen is where they built the rockets, the V2, and also the V1, which went on a skid and flying over, okay? And before we were there, I was on guard one night, for God's sakes, and I hear this thing, and I thought a tank was coming down the road. Oh no, there must have been a launch site near us, and when this stupid thing went over. Anyway, at Nordhausen, the 7th Corps, we were definitely 7th Corps by then, and the 7th Corps, the planes had bombed Easter Sunday, bombed that area, which is be normal. They bombed that area. And when we heard about it, where we had a campment there, or whatever you want to call it. We heard about it. We went over to where the barracks were, and they had a lot of displaced persons. These were technical people. They got them from all kinds of countries and everything else. No matter what they were, Jews, they could have been Polish, they could have been maybe some Italians even, because after all, the Italians had surrendered by that time. And out in the field, out in next to the house, there are over 3,000 people dead. In various parts, they have no clothes, or they have clothes. They're men, they're women, and everything else. They're just piled up all along the doggone thing. I have a picture of it, if I can find it. So when people tell me that they call it the Holocaust, but it isn't only Jewish. No. Because what Hitler did, he didn't, he might have picked on them more than the others, but boy, oh boy, he did a number on everybody.
Quick second, I've lost your microphone.
Where did you have it, Mrs. Carroll, right here? Right there?
What did it do, fall off?
Yeah.
That's my emotions, huh?
Okay. Thank you.
So, of course, I've seen it.
Is there, could you have ever expected that? Had you heard about it?
No, no, no. We were there at the same time the American troops saw it. Our planes had bombed it on Easter Sunday. We were there on Monday or Tuesday when we took over the area. Our general, 3 stars, he forced them Lightning Joe Collins. We gave all kinds of names to them. Anyway, he forced the German people living in Nordhausen to carry these people and bury them. I think they have some movie pictures in the History Channel of this. And that was it. So we moved on. And the next place we stopped, by that time the war was getting, we were at, I may have this mixed up, but the Rhine River. And we were just at the Rhine. We knew we were going to cross the Rhine. So in typical fashion, the American artillery opened up at 4 in the morning. It was one continuous loud sound. That was worse than Normandy. Our artillery, I think they had every tank, every doggone gun they could get, and they were bombarding the other side of the Rhine. We crossed on a pontoon, whatever you want to call it. And one of the 9th Infantry Division's regiments went over the Remagen Bridge. Now, my wife and I had been in Germany in '82, so I wanted to show her where the Remagen Bridge was. There isn't a doggone sign or anything. They wiped it completely out. They don't want anybody to see it. Good. All right. But we did come to a place where Martin Luther was born and died. And since both of us are Lutherans, why, that was important. No, I couldn't take her there because that was in the Russian zone. At that time when we went in '82, that was still the Russian zone. So, but I saw it and I got pictures of it and so forth. And then we ended up in Leipzig. The only thing we did in Leipzig was we heard the Russians were going to meet us at the Elbe River, and we went up to meet the Russians. Well, they were half drunk anyway. Vodka was their staple drink. They drank more vodka than they did water. And we were in Leipzig and stayed in a very good place. Leipzig was this building was a police barracks. It also was a SS barracks. And so we had good accommodations there. The war was over.
I'm going to stop you for a second. Wade, do you hear us? He's going to hit his microphone. Yeah. Yeah, you just hit it.
Yeah, oh, I just hit it, huh?
Yeah, I kind of got hit there. Let me pull it over a little bit.
Oh, I've done an hour already.
Good talk. It's wonderful, but that's rough. Actually, we don't have an 11, though, do we? So you can keep telling us your story. Wouldn't that be good? I like your story. I'm sorry it happened to you, but I like us to be able to tell the story.
Well, you can shut me up, you know.
Well, you know what? I probably will soon.
No, it's, you know, and of course I give you something that maybe you might be interested in. The war was over, so then of course I ended up with 106 points. So you flew home if you had 100 points. Naturally, I had 99 at that time, see? So I didn't fly home. And they moved us and they started sieving us down, the ones who had more points than others, and we went to Baden-Baden in Germany, and some other little towns, and we got hooked up with the 69th Infantry Division. Now, those poor characters had one little battle they lost in the whole damn division, and the division is 15,000. They must have lost 10 people. Sorry. The battle was nothing, a nothing type of battle. We lost nobody in that battle with the tanks. Somebody. Anyway, they put us on trains finally at Kassel, is the name of the city in Germany. Put us on these 40 and 8s again, 40 men and 8 horses. And they were the same size, so it didn't make any difference whether they were French or German. And brought us over, and we finally went to Le Havre. And outside of Le Havre, they had a big tent city for us to wait for a ship to take us wherever we were going to go. And we were in Camp Lucky Strike. You know, the what do you call it? The cigarette people were there all the time. All the time. I don't know if anyone told you, but when we went into Normandy shortly thereafter, we got a carton of cigarettes apiece each week. We got 2 cigars, and Snuffy Marsinko, he loves cigars, so we'd give them to him or I'd smoke my own. And we got all the pipes and pipe tobacco we wanted. So the tobacco industry was very good to us. We were hooked, right? I was smoking 3 packs a day when I had malaria. Anyhow, we went to Southampton, England, across the channel to Southampton. And there we stayed at Tidworth, which is a camp, a military place. And we were there for maybe a week. And then we were put on the Queen Elizabeth. 18,000 men. And we slept in shifts. I got so disgusted with it. The one guy that I was supposed to change with, he must have slept like had a bomb or something. You know, he was way out of it. So I would end up in the hall of the ship. One movie star, and I can't remember her name right now, she had an accident when she was entertaining the troops, not entertaining, but was in an air crash, and she was on crutches going home. And that was in the beginning of the war, so she was in Britain for getting fixed up. 3.5 days we pulled into New York. 3.5 days. It took us 13 days to go to Casablanca. But see, you don't go in a straight line. That's about the end of it. I got out on September 28th from Fort Dix. I went to Camp Kilmer first, and then they put us down to Dix. And they put us out of there, and I got on the train. It must have been near midnight, or maybe 10 o'clock or something like that. And it went to Penn Station. Yeah, Penn Station. It went to Penn Station, and there I got on the Long Island Railroad and went to Mineola, because no trains were running at that hour to Williston Park, where I lived. And I walked home from Mineola, which is a couple of miles, and rang the front doorbell, and my brother answered the phone, And he must have grown 3 or 4 inches. He's taller than I am. And here I come at 2 in the morning.
What kind of homecoming was that?
Oh, it was, I think everyone was half asleep, including me. Yeah, it was, the next day it was a better homecoming. I went to my girlfriend's house, ho ho. That lasted, I'll give it 2 or 3 weeks. My father didn't want to tell me, she was double timing me. It's just as well.
When you got home, I presume there were a lot of adjustments to make. Did you talk about what had gone on?
A little bit. There was a bar that most of my friends went to, and then there was another bar. And one of my close friends, I think Harry is crazy, he was in the Air Force, the 8th Air Force in Britain. He made his 25 missions. He saw action ahead of me. Made his 25 missions and was sent back to the States to teach gunnery, because he was a tail gunner on a B-17. I went up to visit him there in Britain, but there was not much talk about what was going on. And there was not much, Harry was not the kind. But what he did, I did ask him one question: how come you went back there? He says, I couldn't stand that gunnery school. He did 83 total missions, not a scratch. You always hear, a friend of mine just died last year. He was in the Air Force, and he was shot down by the Germans, and he was in a prison camp for quite a while. Another one was there were 3 brothers, and the 3 brothers, the one was he was also shot down, and he was in a prison camp. His 2 brothers, both in the Pacific, both were killed, and I don't know the full, on Guadalcanal, but I'm not sure of that. Harry's brother was killed on the ship. He was in the Navy. Another one we hung out with, he was in the Navy. He got killed. Anyway, what happened to one of the brothers that survived, of the 3? That grandmother, that's something that does happen frequently now. She adopted the 3 boys because neither parent wanted them. And he's a house painter, and I talked to Richie, and Richie said to me, well, I says, what are you going to do? He says, I like California. I'm going to go out to California. He went out to California. The next time I heard, and I don't know who told me. Of course, it couldn't be his brothers. They were gone. He had fallen off a scaffold and got killed. Now here's a guy who was shot down by the Germans, and in a prison camp. He comes home and he goes out to California, and that's the end. And I've heard a few of those. And my friend Harry died in the age of early 40s, and I don't know why. And the gal he married, I couldn't tell you. I talked to her on the phone. She was going to give him the message. She never gave him a message any time or anything like that. I don't know what he married. She didn't sound British to me.
Did you talk a lot about your experience? You said a little bit. What about through the years? Now, you obviously, you got home, you got married. You told us you've been married for a long time. But what about your giving your story as the years went on?
No, I never kept that in. The happenings bother people differently. I mean, the guy down south who who was also a prisoner of war, I could never get Ken to talk about it. And so that's the way he felt. And I think, well, Ken got married. In fact, his wife is still alive. And he was very, very quiet. It seemed that something was bothering him. And I talked to his wife about it, and she said, well, he's that way. She says, I couldn't tell you what he was like before, because they got married after we did. No, I tell my kids all these stories. I got 3 kids, all right? My daughter lives here. That's why we're here. Do you mind if I give you my background now?
Keep going. It's just
Okay.
what I want.
We retired from Long Island to North Carolina, New Bern, North Carolina. I wish I was there. It had one bad feature. The year before we left, we had 4 hurricanes.
You survived those too, after all your battles and the hurricanes.
No, not many people get killed in a hurricane, except they drowned. We never had that trouble. We had hurricanes on Long Island too. My daughter Susan is 54. She teaches in Dolgeville schools. Her husband is a Spofford. The Spoffords are a known family up here. They go back to the Revolution. And he teaches at St. Johnsville math anyway, maybe science too. My grandson is going to be 28 in 2 months. He teaches in Schenectady High School and Intercity High School. He teaches biology. Imagine teaching that bunch biology. I can't. He's getting married next year.
Now you've told him, you've given him some of these stories?
Yeah, I tell him if it comes up. I'm still telling my wife. But let me explain my wife. Almost 8 years ago, she had a stroke. Stupid doctor. I should have sued him, and I didn't. I got bad advice, perhaps. She is still bedridden. She has not had, to my knowledge, another stroke. She's under the care of a doctor here. You've heard of her, Polanski? Yeah. Anyway, things were getting bad enough that we thought after all, I'm 81 now, so I moved up here when I was 79, and I was worried I couldn't handle things, and the kids decided, 3 of them, the 3 kids decided that the best thing for do is to move, to be near Susan. After all, you move near the girl. Now, if you're one of those, why, you can expect this because they're going to pick on the girl. And after all, the guy has got to fight with his wife. Your son will fight with his wife. Now, so that's that family. Then I have a family in North Carolina. He works for IBM, but he also has some input into American Express. I think his job is to keep the hackers out. Keep the, he travels a lot. His wife is a speech therapist. She works in a school for the disabled in North Carolina. They're in Greensboro. They have twin girls. They both have CP. You know what CP is? Okay. They both have CP. They are now 18 years old, soon to be 19 next 2 months, and they're in college. They just finished their first year. They go to St. Andrews in Laurinburg, which is near Fort Bragg. And they're doing okay. Neither one of them can walk.
Would you say that the things that you went through and the history of your battle time was important to make the world for them the way that it is now?
I don't think that thing ever, we just knew that the Japs raided Pearl Harbor. We knew at the time that Roosevelt was getting into us deeper and deeper. And since my father is a World War I veteran, and they had their Lusitania that the Germans shot, and after that we found reason to get in and fight them and save the French again. No, I don't think I gave it any that type of philosophy doesn't suit me too well. I guess if I were able to, what I would like to do is make our country safe from the politicians. Now, I didn't vote for the school thing, and I didn't vote against it. I didn't go. I can't go. We have a nurse comes in the morning, every morning, 7 days a week, take care of my wife. I can't even exist if I had to do the whole thing. And I've seen too much of nursing homes out, both in the South and up here. Little Falls is pretty good. That's one of the better ones. But myself, I've been in Valley Health.
Valley Health.
That's in Herkimer, right? It's only a few blocks from me. But see, I had bypass surgery, 5 bypasses a little more than a year ago, and a carotid artery cleaned out. And